What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful, delicious, smoky, barky, with burnt ends, beautiful barbecue smoked meatloaf. Coming up! Winter is upon us, folks, and it's that time of year where the weather gets cold and it's pretty doom and gloom outside all the time. And it's a great time of year for some good old-fashioned comfort food. And one of my favorite things is a classic meatloaf thrown on the old smoker. But this time around, we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to apply all my sausage-making knowledge to try and make a unique meatloaf that is built for the barbecue pit. That's right, folks. Today we're making a barbecue meatloaf, and it's going to be delicious. This is some meat. What I've got here is a good old-fashioned chuck roast and the point half of a brisket. Between these two cuts, we should have some really nice marbling. And first thing I'm gonna do is just trim these up into little cubes to make sure they'll fit into the meat grinder a little bit easier. Also, the smaller chunks they are, the easier they'll grind, and also the quicker they'll freeze. Which is the next step. Into the freezer this meat goes for the next little bit. That's just gonna help ensure that we get a really nice clean grind. None of the fat's gonna smear and everything's just gonna come out a lot nicer. Always a great step whenever you're making burgers or sausage or grinding any meat for that matter. So, in they go. While we wait for our meat to chill, well, actually it's been chilling for a while if you can't tell by the lighting change, but I spent the last few hours working on a smash burger recipe that Evan Leroy and I are going to be bringing to Los Angeles next week. So if you're watching this in real time, yeah, the 14th through the 18th, Evan and I will be in LA. We're going to be doing a burger pop-up at Slab Barbecue, so hope to see you there. But anywho, let's make our spice blend for our meatloaf. Starting with some kosher salt, some granulated garlic, some mustard powder, some paprika, some red chili flakes, and for our binder, we're going to go in with some milk powder. Traditionally in a meatloaf, you're going to be using breadcrumbs, but again, I'm taking a sausage making approach to this. So today we're going to try out milk powder as our binder. Mix that all up, and now it's time to bust out the meat grinder. As you can see, our meat is nice and chilled. So first thing we're going to do is just send it through once. I'm using the coarse die on this meat grinder, as I usually do. And you may notice that this is a whole lot of beef I'm grinding up. And you're right, I'm not going to use all of this for making meatloaf. I'm going to use about 3 pounds of it for making meatloaf. But I figured if I'm going to be busting out the meat grinder, grinding up brisket and chuck, might as well make a little extra and have some burger supplies lying around. And there we go, some beautiful ground beef. I'm gonna weigh out 3 pounds. To our 3 pounds of meat, we're gonna go in with all of our spices. Get that all nice and mixed up. You know the drill, folks. And as you can see, this is all really crumbly. So that's why I'm gonna double grind it, which is something I like to do with sausage as well, also with burger making. But if you're using a smaller die on your grinder, you probably don't need to send it through twice. But it's just gonna help all the spices evenly incorporate. It's gonna help all the fat evenly distribute. And it's also gonna help work the meat a little bit, which is something that we definitely want to do for a meatloaf. Beautiful. So what we've got right here is a pretty basic beef sausage. So to help turn it into meatloaf, we're gonna go in with some veg, including some diced up celery, diced up carrot, some white onion, and some parsley. Give that a nice little mixy-mixy. And then for our liquid component, we're gonna go in with some beef stock. This is an actual bone stock, so it's got some nice gelatinous content to it, which I think is really gonna help in the smoking process, because it's the gelatin and brisket and all that stuff that makes meat tender when it comes to barbecue. And it's meatloaf, so we gotta go in with some eggs as well. And now we're just gonna mix this all together till it's a nice homogeneous, even consistency, and really well bound together. This is gonna take a while. I really wish I wasn't out of gloves. Oh God, that is so cold. Cold winter's night with ice cold meat. Whew! After a very chilly kneading sesh, this is now one cohesive blob. I could probably even turn this upside down. Really glad that worked. But that's a good sign that this is all well bound together. And like I mentioned in all my other ground beef videos, whenever you grind up meat, all the enzymes break apart and they want to reform into whatever shape they're left in. So that being said, I'm gonna put this into a loaf pan and chill it overnight to really let it come together and solidify, let all the spices hydrate, let the salt do its work, and tomorrow we will see how it came out. So for my loaf pan, I picked up a disposable one at the grocery store. I believe it holds up to 5 pounds. But I lined it with plastic wrap because I'm a little nervous that if I put it in there, it may stick and I won't be able to get it out in the right shape. But this may not be necessary. We will find out tomorrow. So from here, just gonna take our meatloaf and we're gonna press it in nicely into each and every corner, trying to get a really nice shape out of this thing. And there we have it, looking good to me. Give the old tappa. Into the fridge this goes, and we'll check in tomorrow. It's a new year, folks, and like many of you, I'm gonna try really hard this year to be a little bit healthier, especially with all the barbecue I eat. Paying attention to all the other meals is of the utmost importance. Enter the sponsor of this week's video, Magic Spoon. Ooh, he's making a mess. Growing up, I love sugary cereals, but as an adult, it really isn't a great decision. But Magic Spoon makes it possible because each serving has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, only 140 calories. It's gluten-free, soy-free, and keto-friendly. Not to mention, no artificial sweeteners or colors. With all the classic flavors like blueberry, cinnamon, cocoa, peanut butter, frosted, and fruity, Magic Spoon is bound to have something that you're gonna love, or you can get a variety pack. And I must say, they're all quite tasty, although peanut butter is probably my favorite. It's basically protein powder in cereal form. Nothing wrong with that. So if your New Year's resolution is to be a little bit healthier but you don't know where to start, you need to try Magic Spoon. Head over to magicspoon.com/chudsbbq or click the link in the description of this video to get $5 off any order. You can also use code chudsbbq at checkout. And Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like their product for any reason at all, they'll refund all of your money, no questions asked. So again, head over to magicspoon.com/chudsbbq using the link in the description of this video, or head over to magicspoon.com/chudsbbq to get $5 off any order. Thank you, Magic Spoon. There's a snake in my boot. It is the next day. Our pit is coming up to temp, so let's see how this meatloaf is looking. Looking good, smelling nice. To cook this, I'm gonna put it on a sheet tray just to make sure it doesn't fall through the grates or anything weird like that. And there we have it. Good looking meatloaf. You go through and plump it up a little bit. It's definitely a little looser than most traditional meatloafs. I think once it starts cooking though, once those eggs solidify and the meat starts to cook, the binder will kick in and it should end up with a really nice texture. But right now, pretty moldable, which is nice. Make it whatever shape you like. But that's a good sized meatloaf, in my opinion. So now to finish it off, all we need to do is hit it with some pepper, because you may have noticed there's no pepper in the meatloaf. And that's because I wanted to do a really nice heavy coating on the exterior, like a brisket or a rack of ribs or something. Again, trying to get more of a barbecue vibe on this thing. So hopefully with a nice heavy pepper crust on there, we'll get a really nice bark, which is kind of what I'm after with this thing. Again, I want this to be a barbecue meatloaf instead of just a smoked meatloaf. So I'm going on with a pretty liberal amount of 16 mesh black pepper. Again, it may look like a lot of pepper, but it is not freshly cracked, so it's not too fragrant. And don't forget the sides, folks. Come on, especially with the meatloaf. That's looking good to me. And for a little extra flavor, we're gonna go on with a little bit more granulated garlic as well. And there we have it. Beautiful looking meatloaf. Let's get it on the pit. On the pit we go. I'm gonna cook this around 250 degrees for the first little bit to get a little extra smoke on there. So I gotta dampen this fire down a little bit. All right, we're about 3 hours into this cook and this little meatloaf is looking real nice. As you can see, my goal of getting a bark on there has been achieved. Got some nice leak out on the pan here. But now that it's firmed up, it's about 150 degrees internal. I'm gonna take it off this pan. That way I can allow a little bit of smoke to get to this underside, which is still pretty nude, and let it finish cooking. Definitely smelling like a meatloaf. But one other thing I'm gonna do in the final few minutes on this pit is I'm gonna hit it with a Worcestershire sauce spritz. Classy. And that's gonna really help the bark, give it some nice color while adding some wonderful flavor, because Worcestershire sauce and meatloaf are good friends. A lot of recipes call for it in the liquid component, and that's looking better already. So I'm gonna let this keep cooking for another little bit and we will pull it off and check it out. About an hour later, a couple of spritzes went on this thing. It has reached an internal temp of about 165 degrees and it is coming off the pit. And tell me that that does not look like a beautiful barky meatloaf. Ooh, smells good. And usually with a meatloaf, people will go on and give it a glaze of a nice tomato sauce or a sweet ketchup or something like that. But because this is a barbecue meatloaf, we don't put sauce on our beef here in Texas. So I'm gonna leave it just like this, let it cool down, and we're gonna slice on in. And we're gonna serve our barbecue sauce on the side, the way we do here in Central Texas. Because what is barbecue sauce if not a sweet tomato glaze? So I'm gonna let this cool down for a few minutes and we'll slice right on in. While this thing cools down, I'm just admiring that bark. I think because it was on the foil pan, all the juices kind of surrounded the bottom and it kind of acted like a foil boat. I was thinking next time I do this, I might just put it on some foil for the first half of the cook and then actually boat it to kind of hold in those juices and see how it comes out. Although the bottom might get too soggy. I don't know. Plenty of experiments to come. Every time I'm about to press record, this little dog. Every time. But without further ado, I think it's time to slice into this thing. Although, should I tallow it? I don't know if I should. I'm gonna tallow it. Oh, now it's a barbecue meatloaf. Oops. Don't forget that little corner. Nice and glistening, shining like the stars above. This even sounds like a bark. Oh. Am I the first one to make meatloaf burn ends? I think so. Let's give that a little taste. Oh, wow. Yep. Wow, that's really good. I mean, it's a smoky meatloaf. Got a nice smoke ring on there, too. Got a little kick to it from all those red pepper flakes. Love that sound. I think we've done it, folks. This is a true barbecue meatloaf. One more slice. Meatloaf. First, we need some Leroy & Lewis Beet Barbecue Sauce. On sale now at LeroyandLewisBarbecue.com. And again, folks, I know this isn't your traditional meatloaf, but come on, that looks good. Did you do a pull test with meatloaf? Little dunk. Oh, it's a sauce that's so good. It's surprisingly tender. Still nice and juicy. You can see all the onions and carrots and whatnot in there. Perfectly seasoned. I mean, might cut back on the chili flakes though. I mean, that's basically a giant sausage, but it's got like the moisture and the texture from the eggs and the veg. And it's got that classic meatloaf vibe. And these are just adorable. Little meatloaf burn ends. Who'd have thought? The sauce really ties it all together though. That's a real good bite. Tell you what, folks, make a bunch of these, freeze them up, pull them out on a rainy day. I bet if you vac sealed this at this point and sous vide it, it would come back to life real quick. Not too smoky, believe it or not. Even looks like a little slice of brisket kinda. Nice peppery bark on there. What more do you need in life? It's so good. Tender, but toothsome, you know, like it holds up. You can get a bite mark out of it. And this would make for a fantastic meatloaf sandwich. This is a keeper, folks. But without further ado, I think it's time for the official taste test. Whew. That was a quick one. Could you say thank you one time? All right, y'all, that is it. That is how to make an absolutely fantastic barbecue meatloaf. I definitely recommend giving this technique a try. This is a meatloaf that belongs on a barbecue tray. Nice crunchy bark on there, nice and smoky. And if you don't grind your own meat, you could put this together in probably like 4 hours, cook it all, and have an amazing weeknight dinner. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that subscribe button, liking the video, and all that good stuff. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you want to see me cook next. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you so much for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.